What is going on, everybody? Today it's just going to be me, so it will be a slightly shorter episode than usual, and I will be discussing TobyMac's new album, Heaven on My Mind. But before I get into that, here is some weekly news. Yippee! And all of today's news is as of Sunday, March 23rd. As for new releases in music, this week we got Men I Trust with their first, or I guess technically second of 3 albums if you count their live sessions. But this new album is called Equus Asinus, which I'm pretty sure means donkey of some sort in Latin. And I am upset that I did not cover this on last week's news because I knew this was coming out, but I love it. They are one of my favorite bands. And my track of the week is going to be All My Candles, which is the second song from this album. The album, but this song specifically, sound like drinking a majestic, ethereal mug of hot chocolate. We also got a new album from the alternative Christian band Anne Berlin, which is a re-record of their album Never Take Friendship Personal, which came out 20 years ago, and they re-recorded it with their new vocalist, Maddie Mullins, and that album is called Never Take. Another one that I'm upset I didn't cover last week was Japanese Breakfast, who just released her, I want to say 4th album. Let me double check that. Yes, this is her 4th studio album. It is called For Melancholy Brunettes and Sad Women. I am very excited to check this out. I've been eagerly anticipating it. I love her work. I can't wait to see how it sounds. The first track is great. I have listened to that, so very excited for that. We also got a new EP from Torrin Wells, and that EP is called Let the Church Sing. As for singles, we got another one from John Guerra for his album Jesus, and that album will be coming out on April 4th. The single from this week is called Who is Greatest. He is going to be starting his tour directly after the album releases, which is again April 4th. We will also be getting a new album from John Mark McMillan soon, which is going to be called Cosmic Supreme. 3 songs from that are already on streaming, and it will be releasing the same day as John Guerra's album, which is again April 4th. John Mark McMillan will be touring with the band Citizens starting in early May. If I'm in town, I'll be looking forward to that. As for film and television, Severance is huge right now. Season 2 has made it the most watched show on Apple TV+, and it has just been renewed for Season 3, which director Ben Stiller says hopefully will not take them another 3 years to make. Pixar is rumored to be working on a sequel to Coco. The only other major film release of the past week has been Disney's Snow White live-action film, which I have heard there's been some controversy about, and you know what? I don't care, and I don't know that you should either, because that movie exists for the sole purpose of making money. And that is all of the news for March 16th through 22nd. Now, moving on to the episode segment of the episode. I will see you right after this intro music. Hello everybody, welcome back to Consecrated Media. It's just going to be me for today's episode, partially because I just want to give you guys a little more time to get to know me, and also because I don't have a guest for this week, but I will have some coming up, so I'm looking forward to that. Before I get into anything I'm talking about today, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who's been listening and supporting the podcast. I really appreciate it. I've been so blessed by the nice things people have been saying to me about it, and I've been learning so much, both about making a podcast, but about music and just coming up with ideas. It's been a really great creative process for me. I'm very happy with where we're going so far, and I'm looking forward to where we will be going, and I hope you guys stay tuned for that. I just appreciate everybody who's been here. Love you guys. Thank you so much. Today, I'm going to be talking about TobyMac's new album, which is called Heaven on My Mind. I mentioned this one on last week's news segment, but I hadn't listened to it at that point. Now I have. I have some thoughts about it. So, yeah, but before I get into this, I should say, don't think of this as a review. I'm really just trying to discuss it, share my thoughts about it, whether they're negative or positive, which you'll see. I'm not the biggest fan, but yeah, more on that later. But I'm not giving this a rating or anything. I'm just sharing my thoughts. I'm not trying to be pretentious at all in doing that, but I'm going to be honest about my opinions, and that's just the way the cookie crumbles. So, I love you all for being here, no matter what music you listen to, although you might not agree with my takes, so just bear that in mind. So, this album, Heaven on My Mind, this is TobyMac's 10th studio album. He is 60 years old. This man is older than my parents. Good for him. You know, he's been really consistent since 2001, which is when he did his debut, And even before that, he was releasing music with DC Talk. So congratulations to him. That's really impressive, and I think his heart is in it based on the music he's making. He seems really genuine and passionate about making music about God, for God, to make people happy, and that's really respectable. I commend him for that. So on the very first episode a few weeks ago, I said that it could be harmful to listen to like overtly happy, loud Christian music that you would hear on like The Fish or K-Love. And I got not confronted, but one of my friends from school asked me about that. Like, if you are, that music, it's not my cup of tea. I'll just be honest. But God can work through that kind of music, and the intentions are most of the time, not always, but most of the time, good behind that music. And if God uses that for you, then more power to you. I'm not trying to say that if that music speaks to you spiritually, if the Holy Spirit moves through that music in your life, that you shouldn't be listening to it. I'm saying for me, for so many people I've spoken to, that kind of stuff is very, it doesn't cut to the heart. It's really cursory, and it's just like when I was a kid, I would always flip through the radio channels, and whenever I would get to 104.7 The Fish, I would always play it for a couple seconds and then be like, "Ugh, Christian music. I can tell it's Christian." And I think that's a big part of it, because like Christian music, we shouldn't be associating music that glorifies God with compression, uninteresting pop chords. Like it should be creative. It should be flourishing music that's pushing boundaries. I would say our commandment in Psalm 96 is to sing to the Lord a new song. Sing with skilled instruments, and not that people aren't talented, but just, there's not, I don't see the creativity here. So I'm giving that as a bit of a preface for this album, because I do hold TobyMac to a higher standard than a lot of his peers. That doesn't mean that I love his music, but I'm not trying to go against him. So anyway, I'm just gonna get right into it. This album does exemplify a bit of that cursoriness, shall we call it. But I'll say, to give you some backstory about the album, TobyMac's son passed away a few years ago from an overdose, and his previous album was pretty much just about that. Again, not my cup of tea, but he's being genuine, which is not something you can say about so many Christian artists, and especially that's especially respectable coming from someone who's so important to contemporary Christian music. I mean, TobyMac is like one of the major pillars of the Christian music industry, and it's cool that he's using this as a platform to talk about how that's impacted him, but more importantly, just return to God despite the struggle. Like, that's something I can't imagine going through, and his response is very encouraging. So this album is kind of like the aftermath of the mourning, The content is just, he's got heaven on his mind, etc., etc. So the very first song on the album, Heaven on My Mind, is just about that. He's basically just saying, life can be good, but ultimately eternity is what's on your mind. That's good. I think that's like one of the, probably the best response you can have when you lose someone close to you. It's just, the Lord gives and takes away. This world is not my home. Rest in the plan that God has for you. I really appreciate that. I appreciate that he's being genuine there. And I would say that's my favorite song on the album, or maybe the best song. I don't know about my favorite, but it's very like summery, just very. It's definitely a pop song. I'm sure it'll be overplayed a ton on all the Christian channels. But I would say it sounds like Circles by Post Malone. I think at its best, this whole album does sound like Post Malone, or maybe Dua Lipa. I don't know. It's. I'll get into the sound of it later. But Heaven on My Mind, solid song. My other highlights were Resist, Keep the Devil Away. It's a little funky. I see the vision here. I think it could be doing more, but I like what he's trying to do with this track. I think my favorite song on the album is "Oh My Soul," Psalm 103, because again, this is just a simple response to the hardships of life. He's just saying, "Bless the Lord, O my soul, let all that is within me bless His holy name." It's got a little choir part, and it's just I like it for the content mostly, and then that brings me a bit to the sound of the album. So I do kind of mean this in a bad way, or at least not to my tastes way. This is a very Christian contemporary sounding album. It's very compressed. It's very, very happy sounding. It's how shall I put this? I just don't. It doesn't push any boundaries musically, and I'm not going into it expecting that per se, but I am wanting that. I would love to see a major artist like this do something more interesting. Like the pop music we're getting right now is more sonically diverse than anything I've heard on Christian radio in years. And that is part of why this podcast exists, is to go beyond music like this and to give you the nitty-gritty of it, maybe you could say, where we'll see like, oh, that's a very dissonant chord change, but it emotionally represents what you're going for, instead of just worship chords and a nice soft synth. And there's a place for that, but this is never music that I'm going to sit down by myself and listen to, unless someone has recommended it to me, or unless I'm listening to it for the podcast. Like, I don't crave music like this, and a lot of people I know are in the same boat. It's very much music that is made for the crowds, really. Like this, and I respect it because this music is very family oriented. You can play this at like youth camp and stuff like that. I see why there's a purpose for that. I see why that can be glorifying to God, but again, just it's not something that I feel at all. Like it's like stadium music almost a lot of the time. Because of that, I think a lot of the songs can be really bland. Like a lot of them just sound the same after you listen to the first track, and I feel like I'm being mean, but I'm just trying to give you my thoughts on this. So it doesn't, yeah, it can be very bland, and musically and lyrically, a lot of it just doesn't give me very much to ponder, beyond the title of the album. Like I said, I like the theme of eternity being on your mind after you've lost someone. But beyond that, it's just very cliche, very standard Christian music, and it's just, it doesn't do it for me. Like, it makes me feel the same way that secular music does when it's being, like, overtly happy and overtly poppy. I got two examples here. So, I don't know who the artist is, but I'm sure you know the song. But there's that song that's like, I think it's just called Sunroof, but it's I got my head out the sunroof, I'm blasting my favorite tunes. That song makes me want to drive a jackhammer through my skull. Songs like that, or like that One Republic song with the whistling in it that was used in all those memes. I can't do it, and I know people who like it. I'm not hating on you for liking that. But this and so much of Christian music today is just doing that. It prioritizes how you're feeling, and it tries too hard to be happy, and it just makes me a little uncomfortable at some points. But like I said, TobyMac I hold to a higher regard. I don't think his content in general falls into that. He's a little less cursory. He's very God, Jesus first, and that is really crucial as a Christian artist. I'm glad he's like that, because a lot of his peers are just not. It's just unfortunate that so much of the music he's pairing that lyrical honesty or genuine desire to express his love for God, his love for his son who's passed away. It's just a shame that the music that he pairs that with is like, I don't have any better way to say it than just, it sounds like music that would be used in an advertisement. It's kind of playing catch up to a lot of what pop has already been moving past for almost 10 years now. In a lot of soul music, you'll hear a phrase which is "take him to church," and like you on "Family Business" by Kanye West, right before the choir comes in, he says "take him to church," and you could say that before like the horn section on an Earth, Wind, and Fire song. I wish that music like this, music that will incorporate horn sections and incorporate gospel choirs, I wish there were more of that. Like I mentioned the song "Resist, Keep the Devil Away." There's a bit of it on there, I think there could be more. I think I could, I'm so close to feeling that, it could be so powerful. I wish that on this album, I felt like I got taken to church, I wish I got taken to church instead of feeling like someone's about to read the side effects of cough medicine to me. I think a comparable album for me is Persona by Half Alive, which is their most recent album. I'm not saying that Persona is a perfect album by any means. I have some issues with it, but I think a lot of what Heaven on My Mind is trying and falling a bit short of doing, in my opinion, Persona does better, and Half Alive at their best does just way better than most Christian artists, because that's music that does sound happy, but there's unique sonic textures, unique chords. On the Half Alive album, the sounds of what they're going for, I think, are similar to what TobyMac goes for. It's very happy sounding, but the lyrics aren't always bright and cheery. But TobyMac doesn't. I don't get the sense. I don't get the nuance from this. I just, yeah. And I could go on about that, and I have. But that's really what I get from this album. Again, I'm not going to rate it, but I'll just say it's not sonically my cup of tea. Again, something I wouldn't be listening to just by myself pretty much ever. Maybe I'd play some songs at work, maybe. But as far as Christian music on the radio goes, could be so much worse, And I see the value in this. I'm glad that people have it. I'm glad that TobyMac has it. I'm glad he's expressing his trust in God through this music, even if I don't love it. But music like this ultimately is why this podcast exists. I want people to be able to, if this is something you listen to as a Christian who hates Christian music, you listen to this and you're like, oh, this is cringe. I don't like this. I understand. I want to be able to talk about music that goes beyond that. So that's why we are here. One other thing I didn't add. I like the album cover. I think it's cool. It's catchy, just like some of the songs on it. So, yeah, and I wish I had more to say for today's episode, but that's really what I wanted to cover. I wanted to use that as an opportunity to clarify what I'm talking about when I mean, potentially harmful music is what I said. And I think this is slightly better than that, but it still falls into that category. If this is the only thing you're listening to, it's fun if you're just in the car, but if you're sitting down and listening to this regularly, is that making you reflect? Is that giving you time to have devotion to God? Are you going to pray after you listen to this and pour your heart out to God? Which, sometimes that'll happen. But a John Guerra, for example, the purpose of his music is to open your heart to God, to put you in a heart state of worship and submission. And I'm not saying this isn't like that, but just because of the way it sounds, because it's a pop album that isn't the most creative of pop, it just, I don't get that from it. A lot of people I know don't get that from it. And I really want to emphasize, I'm not trying to deeply hate on anybody. I respect TobyMac a lot. I don't hate this album, but I don't love it. You get the idea. I hope this gave you guys something to think about. If I know a lot of people love him and his music, and I understand why. I just don't. I wouldn't put myself in that camp. But I hope this gave you some perspective on where I'm coming from, where a lot of music fans are coming from with Christian music. And I really look forward to the next couple episodes I have. Some very cool guests coming up. I hope you guys stay listening. And all in all, I would say that this album, despite some flaws, is consecrated media. This is aiming to glorify God in the long run. And that is worth celebrating. So if there's one takeaway, take that away. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. This has been Consecrated Media. Did you enjoy this episode? Want to hear more of this? Please let me know by leaving your rating or review wherever you get your podcasts, and feel free to interact with me over on Instagram at consecrated.media. And everybody, keep it snazzy.